Yeah, so if you want to start your project, this is not your project, I think this one. And what is the command to start the project? npm start. Yeah. So in the last class already we created two components, right? One is sample, second one is sample2. Two components we created. So now I want to convert this functional component into class. Okay? So you need to follow 3 steps to convert functional to class. Just 3 steps. Because already you know how to create functional component. For that, it's very easy, First of all, you're importing the React, and then you're creating the function, and you're returning HTML code, and finally you're exporting. So if you follow these 4 steps, you can create functional component. And now we're converting functional to class. So for that, see, substitute function, substitute class at function. So remove this function and place your class here. Okay? Yeah, first step completed. And second one, instead of this parenthesis, place extends React dot component. Okay, copy this and remove that parenthesis. Okay, this is second step. And the third one, place a return inside render. Inside render, okay. Cut this return code and create a render method. That's it. Okay. So what the modifications I made, like instead of function I placed class, and instead of parentheses I placed extends React component, and finally I cut the return code and placed it inside the render method. That's it. And your class component is ready. Okay. Now you can create functional as well as you can create class component, right? Yeah. You can go to the output, you can see. ఇప్పుడు మనం మాట్లాడుకుందాం. We'll discuss now. Characteristics of function and class will discuss now. And major difference ఈ స్టేజ్లో మీకు అర్థమవుతుంది. Major difference like life cycle methods, hooks, these kind of things you can't understand at this moment. You will understand later classes when we entered into life cycle methods. At that time we will discuss what is the strength of class, and when we jump into functional you can understand the strength of function. So at that time you can differentiate function with class. But programming level of syntax discussion we will discuss now. So our next discussion is that one only. Yeah, after creation of the class component, we'll talk about the characteristics of class and function. So generally it will not take this much of time taking. So meanwhile we'll discuss the characteristics of function and class. Okay. So guys, characteristics means I'm not going to define what is function, what is class kind of things. What I'm going to tell you, using function, what you can do. Okay. So like for example, if you take any function, it will expect some arguments. Okay. And finally it will return some result. That's it. Function can do that. Function will expect some parameters. If you can pass, it will expect that parameters and will perform operation. Finally it will return some result. That result value will pass to the this function calling, and you can store in the variable and you can use in the further purpose. Use it for the further purpose. Okay, this is the function usage generally, right? So it will not execute until call the function. So function definition will not execute until call the function, right? That is one point. And function can return some result. Okay, function can return some result and it can execute when you call it. That's it. The 2 points you need to understand. And coming to the class, we have many points. We need to talk many points. So coming to the class. Class is generally you can define in many ways like blueprint, etc., etc. I'm not going to define it. I'm just telling you what it can do. Class it can hold properties and methods. Okay, generally property means what? Property means variable, method means function. Okay, and function, what it can do? It can expect parameters and it can return some result. And variable, it can hold the data, right? Variables, you know, right? So class is collection of some properties and methods. Okay, and generally already I told you, if you call the function then only it will execute, right? But in class we have some magic methods, magic functions. No need to call them. Those methods execute automatically. Examples: constructor, render, and lifecycle methods, etc. Okay, so already here we created a render method, right? You are not called this render method. But it will execute. Is it compiled? Yeah, it's compiled. Yeah, your sample 2 displayed on the browser. The code you written inside render method, which is displayed on the browser, right? You see, it means this code executed means this render method executed, right? But you are not called it. So class having some magic methods. These methods execute automatically, no need to call them. Okay, example: constructor, render, and lifecycle methods, etc. Okay, and we already discussed this point. Class cannot return anything directly like function. That's why it's taken help of render method. With the help of render method. Class will return something. Okay, with the help of render method, class can return something. So without render method, class cannot return anything. Okay, so but coming to the function, it having a behavior to return something. Now go to the difference of the function and class. See, this is my function component. It can directly return in HTML code, but class, it cannot return anything because it is combination of properties and methods. So which is taking the help of a method name called render. Using through the render, it's returning HTML code. And generally functions, you have to call the function, but render method, it's a magic method, it's executed automatically when you call the class. Okay, so in the app component, you call sample method, right? Means you call function component. It's automatically written its HTML code. This code is written automatically. But coming to the class, you called class component. You called class, but automatically it executes render method because it's a magic method. It's automatically written HTML code. Clear? And then come to the fourth point. This is called extends keyword. You written extends, right? This one. And you don't know about what is this React component and why we used extends keyword. You need to understand now. And in Python also you know oops, right? What is extends? What extends can do? Then what is the use?
You can inherit the properties of that.
If it's inherited, then what will happen? If you inherit this, then what happens? You understand my question? I understood. You know the definition. You know maybe the functionality also. But the point, when you are inheriting these properties and methods, then what happen? Those properties and methods available in the sample too. So I will give you one example. So for example, these are my father properties. He's the owner of these properties. And I bought my property. This is my property. Okay? But generally we have a rule, right? Children can inherit parent properties. So now I am extending with this. Now I am owner of 3 properties. Because I am inherited these properties into me. Extended my space with the parent. Now that parent properties I can access. I can sell this property, I can sell this property, I can sell this property. I can do anything on this property because I am extended with this my parent properties. Same way using this extends keyword, sample2 can access its own properties along with the parent properties and methods. Generally, class contain properties and methods. Even this parent class also contains same properties and methods. And this class sample2 also having properties and methods. Now this sample2 is having an ownership on these properties and methods as well as these properties and methods. Okay, so that is the use of extends. Using extends, what you are doing, but you are performing inheritance. The concept name inheritance. Okay, means child can access parent properties and methods along with its own properties and methods. Okay, yeah, that is one thing. And generally, when you are extending, child means you can call it derived, and parent means base class. Absolutely. Okay, so for example, when you are using extends keyword, this one, you have constructor in this and you have constructor in this. Already told you, constructor is a magic method. So you have 2 constructors. You have constructor in the React component, you have constructor in the sample2. My compiler confused to execute which constructor, so that when you are creating constructor in the child in the derived class, try to place super method in it. Otherwise it will throw error. You got error. Because same discussion. Must call super constructor in derived class, I mean child calls, before accessing this keyword or returning from derived constructor, blah blah blah. Means what? You have 2 constructors. You have constructor here, you have constructor here. If you want to access properties and methods of this React component in the constructor, you need to call super method. So method name super. Yeah, now we don't have error. Yeah, okay. If you create constructor in the derived class, you have to call super method. And the final point, declared properties methods can be accessible by the this keyword. Why we are using this keyword? This keyword within class. You understand? What is the point? We already discussed in the last class. Like what? For example, we are all belongs to the same class. Okay, we are in the same room. You are all React students. I can call you with your name. For example, in Python class students, I need to mention Python with his name. Same way, you are inside the class. Inside the class, you can access the properties methods with an object. If you declare any property and method inside the class, if you declared it, you can access that properties methods with an object. If within the class, you can use this. Outside the class, you can access with the object. But we are not going out of the class. We are mostly inside the class. So then we are going to use this keyword. So, for example, if you declare a method, for example, if you declare sample, for example, this is a function. If you want to access this function, you can use this keyword. If you declare a variable, for example, a equal to 10 like this, you can access this a using this keyword, because already you are declaring it. So I will revise everything. Class means what? Collection of properties means variables, methods means functions, and class having some magic methods like constructor, render. Those magic methods will execute automatically. And coming to the class cannot return anything. It will take the help of other methods like render. Using that render method, it's returning HTML code. Return HTML code. It's very important. And extends, we are using extends keyword. What is the use of extends? Means inheritance, means child can access parent properties and methods as well as its own properties and methods, and you have to call super method in the child constructor, and declared properties methods can be accessible by this keyword. Okay, now you understand about class as well as function. Okay, even functionals in the future, function can access some arguments. Okay, using these arguments you can access inside this. Okay, in the future we'll discuss. In the class we will talk what kind of properties and methods React.component already declared, and it means it's built in. We have some built-in class and built-in properties and methods. We'll discuss some of them. You can see there are so many properties already declared. For example, this context type, come down, context, and already there is constructor. See, there is set state method. I will tell you what is set state in the future. And there is a render method, and there is state already. And ref, many things already available in this React.component. Those declared one we can access inside sample 2. Okay, yeah. So now this is a time to talk about variable declarations. Okay, variable declarations. You can declare a variable, right? For example, you can declare a variable a, and maybe you declared some method sample. So I want to print this a in the HTML level. Okay, we will go with interpolation. Concept name called interpolation. This one, curly brace. If you open this interpolation, means inside this HTML, you're trying to bind property or method. Okay, what is the use of interpolation? Using interpolation, you're trying to bind properties, methods inside the HTML. If you declare a variable, you can access that in the HTML using interpolation. Okay, yeah. So now this is the time to talk about state versus props. State means already we discussed in the demo class. What is that? If you declare a variable with the state, the scope of the property belongs to the same component within the component, and props means incoming data of the component. Okay, so we'll go with the state first and later we'll discuss about the props. Okay, so a render, what is the use of render? We are returning HTML code. What is the use of constructor? Initialization. Okay, and I am trying to use my state. I am trying to use state. What is the use of state? If you declare a variable with state, the scope of the property within the component, you can access that component of the properties within the sample too. Okay, so I have taken state. State is a property, means what? Variable. Okay, it's a variable inside the what? Inside where? Inside React.component. Already the state variable declared in the React.component already. Okay, that is one point. Second, it is read only. You can't understand at this moment, I will tell you in the next class. So as of now, try to understand this state. It's a property already declared in the React.component. Can I access directly? I can access, right? No. We used extends keyword, right? Extends already. We used extend, so it means we have all powers in the React.component. So we can access this state, but we can access this state using this keyword, because we already discussed that point. Declared properties methods can be accessible by this keyword. Okay, state already declared, so I am accessing that property using this keyword, and already it's declared in the React.component. Because of inheritance will be taken into sample 2. Okay, yeah. Now try to take a variable, maybe a10. I just want to access this a in the HTML level. We can access these properties and methods in the HTML level using interpolation. So you can write this dot state dot a. Now you can see. Clear? So that's it. It's very simple. Like we can access that properties and methods you declared inside this class. You can access in the HTML level using this interpolation. Okay, and try to declare many properties inside this state object. For example, you take in B also and try to access that B in the interpolation. I'm trying to add a plus b, state dot b. Okay, so and I want to do one thing, like I will take array of elements and I want to display them. Take array and take some names, maybe a and I've taken some names. I just want to print all of them. Maybe these are my friends, for example. I want to display their name. So already told you in the last class, if you are using cascading elements, if you want to use cascading elements, you need to use a parent element, right? I placed my h1 tag, h2 tag, and inside I am taking a ul, and inside I am taking li. Okay, open interpolation, this dot, state dot. I just want to print the first element, friends of 0, right? then 1, then 2. Clear? So I have taken property A, property A, and I displayed here. I have taken B and I added B with A, and I have taken array of elements. I am showing their data in the list. Okay? Yeah. Now here we need to talk very important point. Very important point. What is that? Generally, this data comes from API. Generally, we never declare data in the components. Data comes from database. So if you are getting the data, dynamic data, we don't know how many elements you are going to display. But I declared three elements here, and I have taken 3 list items here. For example, tomorrow one more friend added in my friends list. Then what happened? He will not display in the list. Okay. For example, I removed someone from my friends list. So unnecessarily you are getting a list item. So this is called hard coding. Okay, na? So if you are working in a company, your superior will tell you, don't hard code the logic. If you hard code the logic, then if the data change, your UI will not reflect it will not reflect with the data. So if your data change, if your UI changing, that is a dynamic logic, perfect logic. This is hard coding logic. So if your data changing, this logic is not changing. So for that purpose, we have to go with the loops. Okay. So you know about array, right? Generally, I want to show array elements. Like for example, tomorrow we'll go with the array methods. I just give you basic idea now, and tomorrow we'll go to the array methods. So for example, I am taking an array. Maybe for example, I have 3 friends. For example, Raj. I want to print Omkar Raju in the console. What you have to do generally? With the loop. What the loop you will use? You'll go with the, loops, right? Don't know loops? ఎందుకంత సీరియస్ చూస్తా ఉన్నాను? We'll use for loop. Okay, tell me the syntax. For okay. Any questions? No questions, right? So it starts from 0, and the last element, length minus 1. So that's why I'm not used equal to here. If you use equal to, just try to place minus 1 here. Okay. So this gives you a dynamic logic. For example, if your array is changing, automatically this program will reflect, it will react to the data change. For example, if you increase elements, automatically it will print more elements in the console. Okay, because you taken array dot length minus 1. Instead of that, for example, if you take 2, if you change the length, for example, if you add new one, this data will not print in the array. I mean in the console. It will not print in the console because you are hard coded the logic. You understand the hard code means? Try to understand, because it's very, very important. So don't try to hard code the logic. If your data is changing, then your program have to respond with the changes. minus 1. Okay, but it is almost created in 1980s. It's created in 1980s, like almost 40 years ago. Same syntax we are using now. Generally, performance-wise, is not good. It's never good. So instead of this, we are going to use either for each, or else we'll use map. Either we will use filter, either we will use reduce. These kind of methods we'll use in the future projects. These are trendy one. You know these methods? Telsa? Koncham idea unna. So of course we'll discuss in the next class. But I will tell you the map syntax today. Okay, because I'm going to use it now. So see, just try to write array dot map to given parenthesis. If you given parenthesis, what is the meaning of it? It's a function. It's a function calling. So it's a method. Okay, you mention dot in front of this function. Means if you mention dot, means it's an object. This function inside this object, you need to call it method. So we already discussed, right? If you create a function inside the object, you have to call it method. Now map is a method. So inside this method, you are creating a function. Okay, this function don't have name. Generally in Python you don't have, you have functions without name. What is that name? What is that function? Lambda. Same way here you have a function without name. So this function will execute by whom? It will execute by map. Map will execute this function. So map will execute this function. That it will execute many times. That number is depend upon length of this array. Array length is 3 now. Length 3. So map will execute this function 3 times. Map will execute this function 3 times. So, and in that I am expecting some d and I are given. So the first argument will get the element. In the first iteration, d means Omkar, I means index value 0. In the second iteration, d means Raju and I means 1. In the third iteration, this element and I value 2. Okay, and inside you can place return d plus I, for example, given like this, and maybe you will expecting a new array. So what the value returned, that is assigned to this new array. Now new array means it look like this. Okay, so what map is doing? It is executing this function. Depend on the length of this array. If this length are 3, it means map going to execute this function for 3 times. And what the value written, that value stored into the new array. So this is the use of map. So now I am going to use map in my React project. I will go to the React. So instead of this hard coding logic, I am going to use my map method to make it dynamic logic. So take UL inside this dot state dot, we have friends data, right? Friends dot map. Inside you can place a function without name, and inside you can give any name here because variables completely your wish. Maybe I am giving data and along with the index value, and you can return li because you want to generate li dynamically. Okay, so you can place interpolation and you mention data here. That's it. It's a dynamic logic. You have only two elements. For example, try to add two other two elements. Add some extra two elements. See, you got 4 elements here. You got 3 elements here. So that is the use of advanced concepts. So in the future, you will learn ES6 features. Map, filter, reduce, these kind of things are ES6 features. So you will learn ES6 features, along you will implement them in the React project. Okay? Yeah. So in the next class, we'll go to the array first. We'll go to the array again, and we'll discuss about these kind of methods, and then we'll come back to React again. We'll implement them in the React. Okay, and in the next class, we'll talk about the events and forms. Okay, so event means already you know, right? On click, mouse over, those kind of things. And form, HTML form, you will take the data from the form, right? You will collect the input data from the form. So we'll create a form and we'll collect the user information. And for example, you have Omkar and Raju, right? I will create a form along with a button. When you click on the button, on click, I will take data from the form and I will add that to the array. If you added that to the array, that will reflect on the UI again. Okay, these kind of things we are going to perform in the next class. Okay, so have any questions? No questions, right? Yeah, we'll send you after this class. Definitely I will send you all the videos. Yeah, any other questions? I mean, other than videos? No questions, right? Yeah. Take care, guys. Bye bye. Yeah, Rajkumar, please go ahead. Your voice not audible, Rajkumar. Please speak loudly. Yeah.
I he is asking about the constructor role of constructor in the component.
A constructor role, right? So it's a magic method. Obviously, it's a magic method. I already told you. So if you want to declare a variable, generally already told you, if you want to initialize anything, if you constructor execute only one time, we will discuss again also, but it will execute only one time. If you want to place any initialization, you can place inside the constructor, and
like form initialization, like for example, hidden, right?
Yeah, for this component, what kind of data you required, you will set up here.
Is there any kind of lifecycle hooks also in the React.js?
You're talking about hooks, right?
Lifecycle hooks also exist in React.js, or these are only in Angular?
Like Angular, right? No. Like Angular, we have many hooks, and we have lifecycle methods also. So in Angular, you have only class-based components. You have only lifecycle methods. But in the React, we have class-based and we have functional-based. In the class-based, we will call them as lifecycle methods. In the functional, you can call them hooks.
Okay.
So we have many things actually. Yeah.
We can see that there is a hook Agion init in Angular, in which also we can also initiate any kind of method, same as in constructor.
Yeah. Anil, can you differentiate what is the difference between constructor and ng on init?
Constructor calls before the Agion init, and
So I'm not talking about the execution aspect. I'm talking about the initialization aspect. If I am going to initialize in the ng init as well as I'm going to initialize in the constructor, what is the difference?
The basic difference is that when you will put the console.log in the constructor method and another console.log you have inserted in Angular init, then the first of all, when the component is loaded, the first of all the console.log will be called from the constructor method. After that the Angular init will call.
Yeah, you're again talking in the form of execution aspect. I'm talking about initialization aspect. If you place initialization in the constructor, if you place
constructor calls only once. Okay, you can't call the constructor twice.
Yes, then ng init it will execute every time, right?
Yeah, Angular init also calls once, but you can also call twice if you require.
If you require.
And there are yes. And for the every
can you tell
kind
me?
of change, there is another method.
Yeah. So
Angular change is also another method to call every kind of change.
Yeah. So there is a concept name called memory leakage. So if you place something initialized in the constructor, because it will execute only one time, second time if you come back and if you want to if you come to the same component, that constructor will not execute. So you will take the help of one more lifecycle method to reinitialize the values. Okay, but we are not going to use this kind of concept in the in the React. What we are doing, we are taking the help of some other things to perform that kind of thing. So for that purpose, we don't have lifecycle methods, and React will treat that is unsafe. We have a lifecycle method name called component will mount, but that is unsafe.
Sorry, I am interrupting.
Yeah.
So what are the things by which we can overcome these kind of issues in React?
By sorry?
How can we achieve the same implementation in React?
State implementation, right?
Yes.
Yeah, we will go with the Redux.
No, I am asking. In Angular, we usually use lifecycle hooks. So, is there any kind of special methods also in React or not?
You have many, Anil. I told you 2 times. We have lifecycle methods. We have hooks.
Okay, in React also, right?
Yes, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah. Any other questions, guys? No, right? Yeah. Then take care, guys. So we'll meet in the next class. We'll continue discussion. Anil, I think you missed the first classes. I think in the documentation you have those kind of things. What kind of things I mentioned. So already I mentioned in my debug class already. We have lifecycle methods. We have hooks kind of things already I mentioned. No problem. You just go through the documentation. You can understand. Otherwise, you can talk to me. Okay? Yeah. Take care, guys. Bye bye.